Warning, this podcast contains spoilers. Warning, this podcast contains spoilers.
Let's go watch it in 2D. No, let's go watch it in 3D. But if we watch it in 3D, then is it worth the cost?
You are about to meet the greatest warriors the world has ever known. Legendary. Fashionable. Powerful.
Well, I'm sure that was a lot of fun for you.
It was.
On November 5th, the Marvel Universe
Play nice.
becomes eternal.
So, what's your superpower?
You know that your babysitting privileges are completely revoked, right? Marvel Studios Eternals. Rated PG.
Hello. This is Adolf, and I have with me the Jakes. The fantastic classic Jake is here.
Howdy, folks.
And the marvelous new Jake is here as well.
Hi, everybody.
And today we're doing the spoiler cast for the Eternals. Now, we do overall, we have different opinions on it. Just to recap it really, really briefly. Classic Jake wrote the review and gave it a 7. I give it a 6, and new Jake gives it a 5. So, that is that. It is very controversial online. It's. I feel like it isn't the lowest rated MCU movie.
Yes, 48%.
So,
First rock on Rotten Tomatoes.
On Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic. I don't know the score on Metacritic, though.
And got a B, I think, Cinema Score.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where it's really interesting, too, because seems like people like it. The people that have watched it, but maybe the critics don't like it as much. So the difference is some people that are going to like it and some people that don't like it, you know?
Yeah.
So the user score is 6.6 on Metacritic, and the meta score is 53.
Yep, that's pretty bad.
And, like, some of the reviews here are, like, 10s, 5s, 4s, 0s, 25. They go all over the place. You know, it is, you know, Entertainment Weekly gives it a 7.5. And Observer gives it an 88. So, I don't know. IGN gave it a 7. It's all over the place here. Roger Ebert website gave it a 5. So, it is definitely a polarizing movie. And we'll talk about this in the spoiler-filled podcast. But we just wanted to give a quick heads up there. Now on to the spoilers. So, this movie begins thousands of years ago.
Yeah, 7,000 to be exact.
And in some ways, it feels like they're kind of rewriting some history here.
Kinda.
I can kind of see how some people may get offended by this, because in this universe, the Eternals are essentially gods that have sort of helped humanity and sort of not helped humanity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you do wonder which mythology or religions have the Eternals been participants in, because they go back, you know, from the it said 7,000 years ago when they arrived on Earth, and you know, I don't know. I'm not a I don't know what the sociologist. I don't know exactly when humans were there. I think it was like the Bronze Age, maybe. I don't know for sure. So yeah, that we definitely see, like, what is that celestial called? I forget that guy's name.
Tynum, something like that.
Let me see. God. Yeah, they've changed him up from the comics, which nobody cares about except the hardcore. Arisham.
I thought Arisham was the one that was being
The big one.
released.
Oh, he's a big celestial. Oh,
Yeah.
You talking about Icarus?
No, I was talking about the one that was being released in Earth at the end of the movie. But
I think
I don't
that's the one that became a mountain range.
So the basic, so you actually get the big picture here, because the movie kind of shows you a little bit at first and then explains more things later, that the celestial has seeds around the universe, and those seeds eventually grow from intelligent life, and then they birth a new celestial, that will destroy that planet. Those seeds go into different planets around the universe, and it just continues on, and that is the cycle of the universe, which...
And the Celestials born every billion years, or so, or is it a million? I forget. Even change it up.
Now, we have seen some Celestials in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I guess the most noteworthy one was Nowhere, which was the floating decapitated head in the Guardian of the Galaxy's movie location.
And Ego Living Planet, played by Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
And so the Celestials will make Eternals, which is news to me and is new for this movie, that these Celestials are robots.
Kinda, sorta, yeah.
Well,
artificial life.
Artificial life. So, with Peter Quill, Star-Lord's father, being a Celestial, I've got questions.
Yeah. And is Thanos one of these? Because I don't know.
I only gave this movie a 7. And also when we talk about Eros, I got even more questions.
Just a bit.
Yeah. So the Celestials make the Eternals to help fight the Deviants, which the Celestials also made, or the Deviants are part of, like, they come out from the evil parts of the universe or something. I was a little bit confused with this.
Yeah.
Well, basically, it looks like they create the Deviants to make sure the smarter life forms evolve, because the Deviants eat the lower life forms, but sometimes they get too good at eating life forms, so they create the Eternals to fight the Deviants.
Yes.
And then the planet blows up when the Celestial is born by consuming the intelligent life, and it looks like this is like Westworld, and they wipe the Eternals' minds, and then they plant them on another planet when needed.
Yeah, that just seems really, really convoluted and unneeded.
And that's not... I can imagine the fanboys screaming, because it's not like it's in the comics, but guess what? It's less convoluted than the comics.
Yeah.
Galactus fits into all of this in the comics.
Yeah, so Galactus
made this kind of wonky, is they're trying to seed Galactus and the Fantastic Four in the future.
Yeah, so Galactus could be a super deviant, I guess. I don't know.
He's around eating planet. He basically, it's like he's eating balut, basically. He's going around and eating Celestials before they're born.
So yeah, it takes the whole movie to figure this out. Because we get like half of it at first, and we don't know that these characters are super advanced androids. We just know that they are eternal and that they don't age and they don't die per se, but they do die. It just takes a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also
like a sun.
that the blip didn't affect them either.
Yeah, which is weird.
Because they're not alive, but they are sentient, and they are supercomputers that, they're just like, I guess, super duper datas.
But they eat, they sleep, they drink. I don't get it.
Yeah, and they also have sex.
Yeah, that wasn't clear if they actually can have children or not. I think they said no, because that was one thing that Sprite really wanted, but they can't do. So they can.
Sprite's a different case, because Sprite's physically a child. And this is something else. Okay, if they're trying to if these people are not, or these Eternals, let's call them that instead of people. If these Eternals are supposed to blend in with the populace, why would you have them never age? Why would you make one deaf? Why would you make one a child?
Yeah, why would you make one overweight?
Why give them all the same powers? Why would you give them strong? I mean,
now I do like that they do make them at least varied, and they're not all white people. It definitely is a diverse cast.
But why make one deaf? That's the thing. Because if you're a sentient being, wouldn't you want one as perfect as possible?
I mean, I understand why they did it for the film. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like why the film leans on the Neil Gaiman version of the Eternals more than the Kirby version.
Yeah.
Which was a smart move because you would have a more confusing movie than Lynch's Dune.
So the cast here is huge. It's absolutely huge, and we've seen none of these people in other movies, so it is completely new to everyone. So we got. I'm just gonna say the character names: Cersei, Icarus, Athena, Ajax, Dane Whitman, which is a different character, not an Eternal. Kingo, the boyfriend of Cersei. Kingo, Sprite, Fastos, Makari, Druid, Gilgamesh, and Corrine is the sidekick producer of Kingo.
Yeah. Who tried to actually stake Kingo because he thought he was a vampire. He's been his assistant for 50 years.
Yeah.
And this is all an ensemble cast. We do get to meet a couple at a time, and then we get to know their powers. Now, the powers are never, they're kind of defined, but they're kind of not. I don't really, understand, what Kingo does. I guess he makes little balls of energy and throws them.
Yeah.
Pop up when the script needs it.
Yeah, it's plot convenience, the power.
Cersei could make certain things into other things, which they didn't really specify exactly what are those things. Like you could make dirt into water or whatever. Icarus is essentially Superman, which is interesting that they actually mentioned Superman and Batman in this. I was like, whoa, they actually mentioned this. And
well, that's a callback. A lot of people don't know this, but Kevin Feige worked with the Donners. That was one of his first Hollywood jobs.
And Icarus does have a lot of Superman's powers. The heat vision and flight and I guess super strength. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty much Superman.
Yeah.
And
I do see Superman.
Played him, and the flying scenes with Icarus were awesome.
Oh yeah, those flying scenes look pretty cool. They definitely look better than anything in Man of Steel.
That's true. That is true.
You got Athena, which basically is kind of like a Wonder Woman of this.
Yeah, Wonder Woman with PTSD. I mean, that was one of the best performances I've seen of somebody suffering PTSD I've ever seen on screen. Angelina Jolie knocked it out of the park doing that. I actually wish her character was closer to the comic book version, because in the comics, her and Crow were a couple.
Now Cersei, I felt like she was really bland. She was very basic of an actor.
Yeah.
She wasn't bad. I guess maybe just okay, but Icarus was just kind of a douche, but I get it. And
they're both hot people.
Yeah. And I thought it was, they made Sprite a lot nicer than Sprite was in the comics. I think gender swapping out Sprite because Sprite's a spoiled brat who's always having temper tantrums and always angry. Well, no shit. 1,000 years old and trapped in a child's body. And no matter how old you are, you're still going to be considered a child.
Yeah.
We got Ajax, which I guess is healing powers. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's
the leader of the group.
In the comics, there's 100 Eternals on Earth. And Ajax was not the leader, but I thought it was smart making her the leader. And I also thought it was really smart killing her off and having a murder mystery.
Yeah.
I was to reference this ongoing plot in my review, but I was afraid to call it a murder mystery. I used the term mystery instead because I really didn't want to spoil that.
And then we got Kingo, which I really like Kingo, but he's a really fun character, and he can make energy balls, which, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm going, Mortal Kombat!
Yeah. Like you said, Sprite, and she could make pretty awesome, I guess, holograms or illusions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see Sprite and Loki team up.
Fastos, which is I guess the tech engineer guy.
Yeah, he just makes stuff happen.
Yeah, he designs everything.
And the first gay MCU superhero.
Yeah, and they managed to. Yeah, and if you haven't heard, the movie's getting banned left and right in the world. Yeah, it used to be banned in Boston was the badge of honor. Now it's banned in Russia and Saudi Arabia.
Oh, it's not banned in Russia. It's just considered NC-17 variant in Russia, so you can still watch it.
Very good.
It's the Middle East that's banned it.
But I was surprised when guys were saying it had been banned in Russia. I'm glad to see they're not that stupid yet.
Yeah.
So Fastos, he is a gay man, and he has a gay partner, and there is a gay kiss, and it's all really sweet and nice.
Yeah,
and
tastefully done.
It's not, I thought there is a love scene in this, the first MCU sex scene, and I was like, oh, I thought they're going to be that, and I can understand,
No, that was boring sex scene because they barely moved, which I get it, but
yeah.
You'll see sexier stuff on primetime American television network.
Yeah.
You're not going to get tits and dragons.
Yeah.
Despite their several Game of Thrones cast members.
Yeah, exactly.
I really did believe
Richard Madden said the next time he sees Kit Harington to be wearing all black, and he was.
I did believe that actual relationship. They did have good chemistry together, and they did talk in a way that makes sense for a couple. And I believe that kiss. I thought it was legit, and I think it is hard to take that away. You can't just delete that kiss because it makes sense. And, he has a kid. I guess they maybe could delete the kiss and it changed context of it being like a roommate or something or a brother. I don't know, but it just kind of, it really does work.
Brian Tyree Henry, the MVP of the movie.
And Don Lee. Because they were obviously...
Oh, Don Lee was really good too, as Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
We got Makari when she's a speedster.
Makari, the buying site.
And she's also deaf, I think.
Yes.
That's and then we got Druid. Now he actually has like full on mind control, which is like, whoa.
He's got basically like the Celestials do of control.
Yeah.
And we got Gilgamesh, and he has like
super strength,
super duper strength, and can like make energy. I don't know. It's kind of weird because he has a super strength that he uses to make bigger punches, and it's kind of similar.
I mean, he also makes some awesome looking food.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the Iron Chef.
That poor pie. So sad.
And then we got
Try that beer of his.
The spit beer.
Yeah, I think I've lived in Oregon too long. All the exotic beers you got to try. I've been here too long.
And then finally, I guess, as a main cast, Kareen, which is the producer for Kingo, because Kingo is a Bollywood star, and Kareen is been with him for 50 years, they say, which he doesn't look like 70 or something, but okay.
No, that don't crack.
Well, there's no telling how young he was. I mean, he did think Kingo was a vampire and tried to stake him.
Yeah.
And you wrote this in your review that he does not become a stereotype, and I agree completely. That could have been a stereotype in very bad hands, but they make it work, and he's actually really likable.
I think he does have a superpower because he has cameras for days.
Yeah. I haven't seen anybody who could pack so many cameras on his person and they don't show.
I know.
I was impressed.
I mean, it's like, oh yeah, you gotta just pack and have extra. It's like, damn right you do. That's a good cameraman idea there, because you definitely need that. And, other times that there were actually fun scenes, and he was like, did you get it? And it's like, yes, I got it. It's like, oh, awesome.
I want to see that movie. I want to see that movie. The one he shot.
Right? That would have been a fun little trailer or something for, like a mid-credit scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have all of these characters to juggle, and It's a lot. And all of these are new. We've never seen any of these guys or guys and girls in any of the movies beforehand. It's a little bit weird because some of these characters look like other characters, which for me at least, I felt like Gilgamesh looks really similar to Wong.
Yes.
I felt like Druid looks very similar to the Flash in DC. So it just my brain's like, that's the Flash. No, it's not the Flash.
Yeah. The Flash isn't Irish.
Yeah. And then Fastos looks a lot like this comedian on Daily Show. I forget his name.
Larry Whitmore?
Yeah, I think so. So my brain just kept thinking those people, but it's like, no, it's not. But Sprite, surprisingly, does look very, very young. I think they really nailed that makeup or that look to make her look young and not be young,
Well, she's also 15.
The actress is 15?
Yes.
Yeah.
A teenager.
So it's no kidding they made her human when they had the extra cosmic energy, made her human, because that actress, when she hits puberty, she's going to grow.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure what the deal was with her, if she was actually 15 or young or what. But, yeah, she does look young on screen. And, so, okay, the basic plot here is that one of the Celestials, this big red one with eyes, he sends the Eternals to Earth, and then they go to Earth, and then they're like, oh, this, peoples are not ready yet. They're not super smart, and like we're in caveman times, and then they have their spaceship, which is this triangle UFO, right?
It kind of looks like a Kit Kat bar.
Yeah.
And they actually, kind of help the early society, and they make a tool from like their metal tool to, I guess it's like a copper tool.
Looks like they take them they take them from being hunter-gatherers to being agricultural.
And you see them in various flashbacks be part of human society and be there and see things. And they do explain what is going on and that they are only given the order to take care of the deviants, which are basically monsters that come and they could, tear up and kill all these humans because they're super monsters. They're kind of like wolf monsters, wolf creatures, kind of, that look weird. And they could some of them look different. Some of them like, dragons, but they're basically just monsters that they would fight and kill and stop. And eventually we learn that, having that intelligent life on that planet, eventually they'll get to a population big enough to make the Celestial come out and destroy itself. So.
Yeah, it will basically eat the world, consume the energy of the intelligent life, and be born. And
more life can be created.
Yeah, and we find out that the deviants are the siblings of the Eternals.
Yep.
Yeah. And that they don't want to interfere because they want to make sure that they're not. Their job is not to interfere. Their job is to interfere in a way to keep them alive, but not to actually change their development. Which was a excuse to why they didn't interfere before, why we haven't seen them until now, why they didn't help with Thanos, because it was one of those things where they're not supposed to interfere.
Talk about Thanos. Thanos is an Eternal. Also, since what Arrow said, he's my brother. So that means the comics are canon when it comes to Thanos. Thanos has the deviant gene. So that is definitely deviant interference. So why in the did they not interfere with that?
Right? And so now you're thinking, is Thanos like a half robot thing, or is there different kinds of Eternals where some of them are robots and some of them are organic? I don't know.
Or is he adopted, brother Loki?
Yeah.
Or is Thanos adopted like Loki?
Yeah. There's some interesting there. That's the mid-credit scene.
With Thanos trying to wipe out half the universe, was he trying to keep intelligent life at a minimum so no more Celestials would be born?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is all of a sudden Thanos is actually a good guy?
But would he have to do the snap again once the population reaches a certain point in the universe? I mean, that just seems like a constant.
It won't happen again, or it won't be, or he'll be long dead by then and won't care.
Yeah.
Did Thanos even know about this?
Tony Stark is the real villain of the entire Marvel universe.
Yeah.
So like we start this movie and they're in London, and then we have here Cersei and Icarus, right? No.
Yes.
Yeah, Cersei are the couple.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
No, Dane Whitman, Kit.
Yeah.
Well, it's a triangle. Well, 2 triangles we've got in this movie.
Yeah.
And they're teaching a class, and there's an earthquake, and Cersei uses her powers to help save a kid from like this giant fossil that's hanging on the wall and is about to hit, and then she changes it to like dust or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Sprite is there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna see each other," and then there's a deviant that attacks, and then Icarus comes back, and it's like, "Hey, there's deviants here, and this one's healing." And we later learn that Icarus kills Ajax to continue on the idea that he already knew that the deviants and that the celestial will be born, and he wants to make sure that happens. Which I didn't really expect.
Yeah, that was a heel turn. I was quite impressed with that heel turn.
And it was kind of predicted because he'd been a douche throughout the entire movie. So,
that they do actually kind of justify it and argue about it. Is it right to save these people when this new celestial will be born and they create, new things? What about the future generations that are not created because this planet is saved? So there's actually, some logic to it, and it's not, I could understand it.
This, they really set the metaphors on pro-life and pro-choice.
Yeah. And the logic, too, of like Star Trek, lives of the many outweigh the lives of the few, was part of that, too, with, okay, I guess all the life on Earth isn't important, but how many, will Earth's life, with the celestial that Earth is from, will that create billions of planets that work, or just one planet? I don't know. If you kill Earth, how many trillions of lives are there, but how many quadrillion lives are made or not? There is a mathematical kind of aspect that I kind of appreciate. I don't agree with, because obviously I'm from Earth. So.
Yeah.
Ajax decided Earth was special because they reversed the snap.
Yeah. Now they are, we do get some scenes where they talk about the Avengers. They know of the Avengers, but nobody actually has scenes with the Avengers or actually knows that to contact them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like, why not? If this is the whole Earth, I think you could give a call to who
are deviants, technically.
Yeah.
Oh. And their rule is, unless the deviants are involved, we don't get involved. Whatever. But
so yeah, you're traveling around as you're like watching. Okay, we got to go to the other people and see what give them a heads up that these deviants are coming out, and you learn that about the whole thing with the celestial coming out of the core of the Earth. And it's slow. It is a slow ass movie.
Yes, and it ends. The climax sucks.
So you have an all-star cast here with Salma Hayek, Angelina Jolie, just to name a few, and I like them. I like all the characters here. I think Gemma Chan as Cersei was just kind of bland. I actually really like Sprite, and I think. Lauren Ridloff as Makari has a lot of personalities for being, they show a lot of personality there for a deaf person. I'm not saying deaf people don't have personalities, but, it is hard for that to be shown on screen. So
yeah.
Yeah, and I really liked Druid. I mean, his personal struggle with mind controlling people, because he has a real nice arc going from thinking he should control everybody all the time to giving them free will and just unifying them when they need to work together, which is something that the Eternals come to agree amongst themselves. There's times they have to, get their together and basically form their unimind and do business.
Which that scene with the Unimind, they didn't show Kurgo given his, he wasn't even in the climax, which really sucks. Like they didn't show him like sharing his energy, and I hated that. Like he seemed like he just checked out of the movie. I don't know why.
Oh, that's because he agreed with Icarus but didn't want to fight his friends, so he left.
Yeah, that just seems too easy.
Yeah, and then he basically pulled a Ghost Rider.
Yeah. Well, I'll ride with you one time, but I won't help you fight.
And then Karun said, "Thank you for the last 7,000 years of taking care of humanity." I almost cried because he had every right to go, you guys. And he just thanked what little they had done before. He was actually the bigger man than they were.
And we do learn that Ajax was killed, they thought, by Deviant, but we learned that it's later Icarus. And we do learn that Phastos has a family, and he has I guess a husband, and he wants to take care of that family. And the husband's actually like cool. It's like, go save the world. It's fine. We want to have a world to live in. Yeah, like chill. It's like, hell yeah.
And Ajax's death didn't really mean anything because if they've been doing this recycle, I mean, it's obvious Ajax can be just brought right back.
And we learn that the Deviants absorb the powers too. So now they have the ability to heal, which was Ajax's power. So that makes them more dangerous because they could kill him before, and now they heal. So that's a big thing. And then we learn that they eventually suck up the power of Gilgamesh, and Gilgamesh, he has super strength, so that makes him super powerful, and they actually gain consciousness, or I guess there's one left, and that one gains consciousness. I wasn't sure
I don't
how
know
many.
How that works.
Yeah,
well, I think Pro had these,
that?
and the Eternals thought they had killed all the deviants, and that's why they kind of went their own separate ways, waiting to be told they can leave Earth and go home to Olympia.
But how do the deviants know to suck up? How do they know they're the Eternals? How do they know to suck up their energy?
They never explain that. That's one of the mysteries of this. Do they give off another energy vibe? Do they recognize them because there's a similarity to them? Because they're both created by the Celestials? I mean, they don't explain this.
Yeah.
And so he gains consciousness, and they don't explain how many deviants there's left. They do explain that Icarus knows about the deviants and that they were frozen. And I thought they were going to go to climate change, but they actually just oh yeah, the celestial coming out has wakened the frost. And it's like, oh okay, well yeah, and
permafrost is melting. I mean, that's happening in real life. I mean, we haven't found any deviants, obviously, but we have been getting some germs that we thought were eradicated are popping back up because they were in the permafrost.
So we do see that there's a couple deviants there, and that there's a leader deviant, and that's how Ajax is killed by the deviants there, that he throws them into there. So we do see a cutscene, or I guess a cutscene, but a flashback with Druid talking when they were in Mexico, and this really hit home because I really love that history of Mexico and the Spanish conquistadors and taking over. Because I am Hispanic, and I actually, recently on vacation went to see some of those pyramids, which is really interesting to see actually in a movie. Hey, and Druid was like, this isn't, humanity is slaughtered each other, and this is a genocide. It's like, damn right it is. Yeah. The Spanish just really were horrible, and it is my history, and it sucks. But yeah, he was like, I could change all of this, but they're like, no, we can't do this. And we can't do this because it's not our job. And that's when he leaves. And I was like, good for him. Damn right. He should want to leave because, it's horrible seeing how much the slaughter of thousands, if not millions of people. So that was interesting. I like that. And then we do get Kingo with he's a Bollywood star and the whole Bollywood scene. That looks really cool in 3D.
He's been masquerading as his ancestors and descendants, so he's like been in Hollywood star for 100 years. And when he gets too old, his son, quote unquote, takes over the family business.
Yeah.
And I actually really, really liked Kamali Najini. He's really grown on me as an actor. I've seen him in a couple of things. He's been in Men in Black, and he's been in Stuber. And I like him. Yeah.
He was in Men in Black?
Yeah. The
Which
new
one?
Is a voice.
Oh, that's right, as Pawnee.
Yeah. So I've really liked him, and he's the best that I've seen him in is in this. So I really like him.
Yeah.
And then you get his producer here to join them, and they're recording, and they're trying to figure things out. And apparently they have 7 days. They don't know that they have 7 days until the Celestial awakens from Earth. And they're just trying to figure out how to make a device or how to stop the Celestial. And, Fathos is like, oh yeah, if we make this mind thing, it's going to combine our powers. And I was like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, movie, sure. You're going to do what you want to do.
The Unimind, which is one of the few Kirby things that kind of made it to this adaptation.
And they talk about, when they get with Gilgamesh about the Avengers and have a nice little scene, and it's like, okay, so give them a call. If you know this is the world-ending event, give them a call. If you know of them, if you're just watching all history, you're just like the Watcher and What If, and just don't do anything, Hey, if this is going to affect them, you should probably help them.
Yeah.
I mean, what Avengers are available right now? I guess, hey, if they want to get Fastos, call up Dr. Hulk and get some, scientific knowledge in that.
Yeah.
I was surprised that they did not. I was really thinking that the rings from Shang-Chi were going to be referenced as eternal technology, but nope.
Yeah, that
would have been interesting.
Yeah, that was a missed opportunity. And I think a lot of that had to do with COVID.
Yeah.
Because they mentioned, like, oh, we're going to make these bracelets. It's like, oh, okay, cool. No, that's not it. Oh, okay, well.
Yeah.
So that would have been a smart tie-in.
Yep.
And they have this whole fight scene with the volcano, and, like, apparently Cersei would had to run to the volcano, which is like, okay, several miles, like a huge distance, and she's going to stop the impression I got was that the Celestial was going to come out of the volcano, but it didn't.
Yeah.
And that, they combine their powers, and they give it to her, and she could help change the Celestial, because her power is changing matter to another kind of matter or something. So giving her the superpower of giving her the ability to change him from a Celestial to, I guess, granite? I don't know. Rock?
Limestone?
Yeah.
She just got him hard.
Yeah. Just got him hard. And now he's a tourist attraction in the Indian Ocean.
Rock hard, yeah. And then there's a whole fight with inside a cave with the last super smart deviant. I was like, oh, I thought this would actually play out to be better.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought the deviant was going to help out or do something more than just have a small scale fight.
Yeah, God.
With Athena, and that fight actually, I was like, oh yeah, she's gonna die. Oh wait, oh that surprised me. Oh cool.
Yep.
But I like that Fastos made like this contraption to keep Icarus from leaving, and it was fun seeing Makari speed around and be a speedster. I think in an interview she said, "Oh yeah," they asked her if she's faster than Flash, and then she was like, "Oh, of course." And no.
The Flash could actually outrun light.
It was fun watching the brainy Eternals outsmart the brawn ones.
Yeah, but yeah, right now I think even Marvel hasn't even. They're kind of like, yeah, we have our speedsters, but no one is equal to the Flash in DC, because the Flash in DC is incredibly fast. Like, not even like it's hard to even fathom how fast that they've written him to be.
They even even though Marvel technically had speedster characters before DC did, they were so poorly written. They went back and reconned that all of them were Makari.
And they've played around with the idea of Superman and Flash being faster, but they always kind of end up that Flash is. I mean, that is his single power. Let him be fast. It's fine. And, Flash could do a lot of things with that speed. So it's like, no. She's a great speedster, but she's not Flash, Anyway, that's just kind of aside. But yeah, I like the visual of like the hand coming out and like the head coming out. I was a little bit confused why the head looked just like the other Eternal. I thought that they all looked different, or not Eternal, Celestial. Did you guys think that they would look different? I don't know why. I thought.
Maybe a different color, but I don't know. They just
could have. But the thing is, we're getting so much conflicting information between these Celestials and Ego.
Now, okay, you said there's a third act twist that you didn't like. What was that third act twist? Just to make sure we're on the same page in the spoiler-free podcast. Classic Jake?
I thought you were talking to the other Jake.
No,
you said there's a third act. Is that because of the act?
Execution of it. I mean, we've got all of this happening, and it's not making a whole lot of sense. I mean, the whole thing with the Celestials and
I guess the deviant becoming self-aware and intelligent, that kind of went nowhere.
The deviant is fighting with them, and then all of a sudden they're attacking the deviant. I was like, what the hell? The deviant Crow is fighting with you. He's helping you, and then all of a sudden you're fighting him?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. One moment they're on the same side, and then all of a sudden they're enemies again.
Yeah.
It's like the revelation that they're both children of the Celestials meant nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of like, okay, cool, but where were you leading to that? Are these deviants just animals or just like, monsters, like I said? Or are they actually like, now that they're intelligent, are they different? Do they have a different... Nope.
They probably always were intelligent. They just couldn't they could communicate with each other. They just couldn't communicate with them, which makes sense why the Celestials didn't want them to team up against them. Of course, you're going to keep them at odds with each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the very end, they stop the Celestial, but the partial of it is out of the water, and it looks cool. And Cersei still has the power of the Celestial, which is to create life, I guess. And she makes Sprite into a human being.
All this in the comics, cosmic energy, you can pretty much do anything the plot requires.
Yeah.
And, Sprite has to go to school because she's, like, canonically 15.
Yeah.
She should be really smart by now because she's been in school for, 7,000 years?
Yeah, she's been living life and...
Yeah, been a teenager for 7,000 years.
And then we figure out, Dane, the boyfriend of Cersei, was like, oh yeah, I have a secret too. And then you get at the very end you get some of the
she gets snatched.
Yeah, some of them get snatched into space, and some of them decide to just fly away in their spaceship.
Yep.
Yeah, the Domo, which nice alien reference.
And then the Celestial is like, hey, I'm going to judge humanity based on y'all. Or I was a little bit confused how that scene played out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was confusing. I'm like going, I mean, in the comics, that's kind of what the Celestials' mission pretty much is to judge a race, whether they've evolved sufficiently.
But then why choose to create a Celestial out of Earth before the judgment? That's really stupid.
I think Chloe Zhao read probably Earth X and the Neil Gaiman run, and that's all the research she did.
Yeah, because she has 2 screenwriting credits on the film, and it kind of shows like that she doesn't know too much about it.
See, parts of this reminded me a lot of how Ang Lee adapted Hulk.
I'd rather watch that movie, honestly. At least it has mutant poodles. Mutant poodles.
Both of these movies have great ideas and some great things, but then they've got some real dead weight and things that go nowhere and things that contradict each other.
It's almost like indie movie directors shouldn't be making comic book movies. I don't know.
So, you do get a lot of emotional scenes with the different characters, and Cersei and Icarus had a thing, and, some of these scenes, they're emotional, and they go on forever.
Yeah, it didn't really explain why he went away from Cersei either. It was just, well, I'm just going to peace out.
Fine. He said there was no way he could keep the secret of the true mission from her. Which is like, whatever. That just sounds like cowardness.
Yeah.
So it just, some of these scenes really drag out, and they have a lot of pretty cinematography. I'll give it that. It's a very pretty shot movie. It looks nice, and they have really cool camera angles, and it works in that degree, but a lot of it is just like, wrap it up, guys, tighten this up.
Yeah, like they should have re-edited the movie to kind of in a singular timeline instead of just jumping back and forth, except for a couple of scenes, like with Ajax, I assume would be better told like that. But yeah, they just needed better editors on this movie.
Yeah, make it more, it feels like a DC, because DC likes to do the timeline not 100% linear, to have cutscene and then, present scene and then past scene, and then so if they would have just kept it to be a good flow of a linear time frame and then to just tighten things up, this feels like a DC movie. It feels like, you have these dramatic characters, you have a huge length of time. Like, this could have, like, I can't imagine there being a director's cut of this, because, like, how long could it be? Like, 4 hours long? I mean, it was like 2.5 hours, 2 hours 45 or something like that.
2 hours 38 minutes.
It feels long. Like, it could have been cut down by 38 minutes and been a lot tighter.
Yes, you could have gotten better action scenes that way.
I mean, there's some scenes I did like, the scenes with them eating, and talking about stuff going on.
Yeah, the more human scenes were better than the action scenes and the sci-fi elements.
I mean, those scenes were what I wanted out of Captain Marvel, and didn't we got one, and then we got a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
You mentioned that. Okay, I mentioned this in the spoiler free, that whenever we had one of the, I think it was either Athena or Cersei talking to the Celestial in space, having the Eternal like be a little bit popping out, and the Celestial being farther back, and space even being farther back, really, really helped that perspective in 3D. It was just a nice use of the depth that I really liked.
It showed the scope of how huge a Celestial is.
Yeah. How huge are these things? Are they bigger than planets, or are they equal to planets? It wasn't really clear.
I mean, they look bigger than like Earth or almost any other planet out there.
I'm just like, I'm just seeing this, and I'm like going, and Galactus is as big as a Celestial in the comics.
Yeah.
Are they like Jupiter sized?
What to expect from Galactus? We ain't getting a cloud this time around, kids.
Darn.
Oh, you really want the cloud back?
No. Sarcasm.
Good.
And the end of the movie, couldn't the whole Earth see the damn the Celestial, because it's so big and it just appears, and then, when people are like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. But it also felt like a DC movie, because they also mentioned Apex Predator, just like Wonder Woman 84. And also something big happened in the Indian Ocean, just like Man of Steel. What are they trying to do?
Well, I think they were trying to, have a worldwide cast and a worldwide event, so it's not only in American, or
right.
world established, locations. It is all around the world. These events are happening.
I mean, that's fair, but why specifically the Indian Ocean, just like Man of Steel, and also why I mentioned Apex Predator, which is 3 movies in a year that I've mentioned Apex Predator, and it's very, very annoying.
I mean, they explain that in like one of the opening scenes in the school, where it's like, oh, okay, now we know what the deviants are. Got it. Okay, it was obvious, but it worked. I actually kind of like that.
Yeah.
And I did like that they explained, like, oh, every 5 years they have to move away because people realize they're not aging, or,
Yeah, just like Twilight.
yeah. Just like Twilight.
They should have became movie stars because Kingo's been able to do it for 100 years and not have to move.
I mean, it was kind of implied that Sprite was like an assistant to Houdini. I think based in the posts, like in the credit scene with like the posters and stuff of her. It's like maybe she's like an assistant. I'm like, that's kind of clever. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of like that Sprite kind of inspired movies.
Yeah, and like kind of inspired Tinkerbell, sort of.
Yeah, and did you catch in Kingo's airplane that they were flying around in? Captain America's original shield was on one of the cockpit walls.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's the shield he had when he was doing the USO shows.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Makes sense.
And, you see that Makari was left in the UFO reading all this stuff. There's like a bunch of like historical elements of Earth there. And
yeah, that's like stupid. Why'd she live there when people were clearly trying to dig that out of the Earth? I hated that.
Well, that might be why they couldn't dig it out, because they would dig and then she could go out and bury it more.
Fair.
Imagine she was living there because she's deaf, and probably when she went back to the spaceship, she was tired of not being able to communicate with people.
That's fair.
But they explained, just finding her sitting there was just it required more of an explanation.
Yeah.
Because, even if she had the Library of Alexandria, well, guess what? It's not going to take thousands of years to read through. It's going to take, especially for a speedster, you can read through that in, a day.
Yeah, if Sonic could read through the entirety of Flash comics in a couple of seconds, that should be easy for her.
Mm-hmm.
Unless she wanted to take her time.
Oh.
I guess, but, is she, getting these...
The last minute. And crams.
Is she getting these historical artifacts and putting them into the ship or something, or what? They have the original Excalibur there. And it's oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Isn't Excalibur the actual sword? Isn't that a character in Marvel or no?
Well, Excalibur's is the sword exists in the Marvel universe, and in the Marvel universe, it's also the sword of the Lady of the Lake instead of being two separate swords.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, yes, we have to talk about the Ebony Blade.
Mm. Oh, hold on. Before we get to the credit scenes. So, we have here Makari, and who was the other person that flew away?
Icarus.
No, Icarus dies.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Druid?
I know, I remember Athena goes off to space.
Okay, Athena and Makari, and then they go off in their... in the UFO, in their spacecraft.
Group was with them.
So all the other ones are picked up by the Celestial, and then they said they're going to judge them. And does the Celestial kill them, or do they just take them in? We don't know that.
See what the Celestial's done to them yet.
Yeah, so we have no idea where these characters are, and we do know that there's a couple that are dead. Ajax is dead. Icarus is dead.
Gilgamesh is dead.
Gilgamesh is still dead.
They're dead as the story goes, but since every time a planet blows up, the Celestials bring them back and put them on a new planet. I wouldn't say they're very dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't had their backup refreshed in a couple 1,000 years, so.
Yeah. So they might lose a few things when they reboot them.
Yeah.
So whoever they were in, the previous time planet before, they were then, but we don't know if that's what happens with the Celestial, if the rest of them are taken in, and that's the end of that, and we're not going to see those in again. We're not sure about this. Fastos, I would have liked him to help out humanity with his tech. Why not?
Oh.
So is his family gone? I mean, I feel bad for his husband and son.
Yeah.
How did the blip affect them?
Well, I think this takes place after.
Yeah, they do mention the blip after, so this is after the blip.
Mm-hmm. No, but the thing is, we don't know if Fastos' family was affected one way or the other by the blip, because it's
Yeah.
They conveniently leave out that bit of information.
Yeah, and what happens to these bodies of Gilgamesh and Icarus and Ajax? Do they like actually decompose, or are they? Will someone find these bodies and be like, "What the hell technology is this?" You know?
Yeah.
And does Karun actually like make a video and put this on the the ultimate video on Bollywood or something? You know?
Yeah.
Because that could be a
Yeah. So finally, like, come out as a Eternal.
Yeah, does the world know of the Eternals after this because Kareen was doing videos? You know, obviously some of the cameras broke, but you don't have to break the entire hard drive on there; could still work. You know,
Right.
Be in the cloud.
yeah, cloud, whatever. Yeah, so that is an interesting plot thread that could come back, and could we see a cut of that movie on the DVD or Blu-ray? That would be cool, but I don't think there's going to be one. But that would be cool to actually have that. And, that could be a scene that they show in a future movie or Eternals movie, because that could, get people caught up. Now, they did say there's going to be Eternals 2 at the end credits. How do they continue the story? And then they also have, Marvel has already said specifically that they don't have to make a sequel to Eternals. So how does this, do we just get more celestial stuff or what?
I mean, I think Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is going to probably have them run into at least maybe a post-credit scene. Maybe there's going to be something involving the Guardians with the Eternals.
Maybe
they run into them in space. I don't know.
All right, so that leads to us to the mid-credit scene, which is Makari and Athena in the ship, and then they get teleported in, two characters, and it looks like the same kind of rainbow Thor teleportation. I was like, ooh, a Thor character. And no, it is Bebo or Debo or
It's Pip, played by Patton Oswalt,
and Arrows, which AKA Star Fox.
Star Fox,
and
Harry Styles.
Harry Styles, and he nailed it. He was a better choice than even Timothy Chalamet for that part, who was like the internet's number one choice to play Star Fox.
I'm surprised they even mentioned that name, because I feel like Star Fox has, obviously it's before in the 1970s when they made this character, but Star Fox has just become so connected to Nintendo and the Star Fox, franchise with the animals and the fly ships and stuff, that the character that
do a barrel.
Yeah, and that's such a bigger part of that character, that name Star Fox. People connect with Nintendo, don't connect with this character, because this character is really old, but it's not like you don't see them in a lot of stuff right now. So interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah, Star Fox. Yeah, Arrows is pretty much a deep cut.
Yeah. So he's like, "Oh, I'm here to help you," and I'm the brother of Thanos, which that was a whole storyline that I was wondering about, because in the comics, the Eternals are connected to that way. So the whole robot thing is not at all part of this at all.
Oh, or whatever biological created form the Eternals actually are, and he says, "Oh, Thanos is my brother." Okay,
Yeah.
And then he's got a little gold ball and he uses it like a radio. He obviously doesn't have to implant it to use it. So I'm like going, this guy knows how to use this tech a lot better than these Eternals do.
Yep.
So then we get to the credit scene, and it's actually, the credit scene looked really good in 3D. Like all the different posters and like visuals of like kind of showing the Eternals.
Yeah, nice museum tour.
Yeah,
in 3D.
Yeah, so you see how historically speaking the Eternals have impacted humanity indirectly, and like it looks really good in 3D. And you get to the final credit scene, the end credit scene, which has
which looks like a sword.
Yeah, you have Kit Harington as Dane Whitman, and he's opening a big box, and he's like, "Okay, I gotta open it." And he opens it, and there is a big sword in there, and he's unsure about getting the sword, and then you hear a voice that says, "Are you sure for this?" And then he grabs the sword, and then it fades to black.
That was the voice of Blade.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ursula Ali. And the reason we only heard a voice, COVID, and they haven't quite decided on what Blade's going to look like.
Probably hasn't worked out either.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fine. We don't need that, you know.
Yeah.
Blade is still several years off, and it looks like they're going with Black Knight's going to become part of the Midnight Suns.
So, this character is Black Knight in Marvel, and he's kind of a deeper cut too. He's not like a super popular character, right? Or people know of him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been around, but it's some of these characters are like, I don't know.
He was the leader of the Avengers at one point, but
Yeah, well, so was Cersei.
yeah.
So,
But there's been hundreds of characters have been Avengers.
Yeah.
So yeah, this Black Knight, I don't know when or if this was something that I was not expecting at all. I was expecting there to be more of a Shang-Chi or directly connection to the Guardians of the Galaxy or something connection, but nope. This is a all new thing here.
Yeah, pretty all inclusive, and I guess you really don't have to see any of the other MCU to watch it, but it does help.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with Black Knight, if that ever becomes a movie, if that's going to be like 15 years from now, or if
Knight's going to show up with Blade, and we might see him in some of the Marvel shows coming forward.
Yeah. Maybe that's a night thing that they do with the Moon Knight, and they have Dark Knight there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting to see. The movie has made a good amount of money worldwide, but not a huge amount, and it's definitely one of those movies that you got to see how it plays out in week 2, 3, 4, and how much money it's making despite the controversies with, which is just a kiss, for God's sakes. It's not a full-on, gay butt sex scene,
I mean, I'm surprised, conservative America isn't really causing a huge uproar with this movie as of yet.
Yeah.
Give them time.
Yeah.
They're still screaming about Dune.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not that big a deal. It's just a kiss, and it's actually a good relationship, and they're both consenting adults. What's the big deal? I don't care.
It's against the Bible.
So, and they're comic book characters, and if you really want to be technical, he's not a human.
Yeah.
He's an Eternal.
I mean, the other person is, but I mean,
yeah, he's a robot. It's a robot and human.
Yeah.
For God's sake, the Eternals were pretty much when Kirby left DC, he couldn't take the new gods with him, so he pretty much recreated them because that's what he wanted to work on, and so they were never as good as the new gods because they were always kind of the second version.
And the Eternals go back to the 70s, right?
70.
And they're
76, I think.
Yeah, 76, and it is Jack Kirby. Now, I didn't see any references like directly to Kirby, like they didn't go to Kirby school or something. Did that catch that or no?
No.
The only real references were some of the shapes, and they captured some of the quirky design choices that he made. But the adaptation was more from Gaiman's run.
Yeah.
His miniseries, which really streamlined a lot of the Eternals mythology.
So, like in the Eternals comic book, the Celestials visited Earth, and then they were there, and they made genetic experiments to early humanity, and they created 2 deviant races, very different from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So they created 3 races: the deviant, the Eternals, and humans.
And, they had superpower mutations, and, that helped explain some of that. And, so all of that is rejiggered and completely changed for this movie. So it is what it is. I mean, I'm not one, I understand people love canon, but at the same time, I understand that Marvel and DC want to have that wiggle room because they can't just copy and paste the story that was on the comic book, because comic book and a movie are 2 different things.
If they copy, you can't just copy it. It's 2 different. They stream. First of all, you'd have a 6-hour movie that makes no sense.
Yeah. And then even if you have a TV show, it still is a lot of content to filter out and a lot of references to other things that you may not know. So you got to make it work for the audience that you want. So it makes sense, to have all these differences. But I can understand how people get mad. I can understand how people don't like this movie. It is slow.
Yeah.
I think non-comic book fans are probably going to dig this more than comic book people because Chloe Zhao really leaned into the whole Joseph Campbell aspect on these characters. More facing on mythology and God than superhero tropes and stuff. I'm not saying that as a put down to superhero stuff because it's not. I'm just saying that's how she set this movie up. And more people are familiar with mythology than they are comic book stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in some ways, this feels like a Wonder Woman kind of movie, in the theology and the...
So, Patty Jenkins did the same thing to a lesser degree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except there's an actual place on Earth that dealt with that instead of like a far planet,
This movie is more emotional. It is slower paced. It is more...
Yeah.
I can imagine the parents might enjoy this movie more than their kid that they take to the movie theater with to see this. The kids might say boring and go to sleep, or this might be a rough movie to watch. At night. I had a Coke with me and I was drinking that Coke and I was starting to get sleepy here and there. But like if you watch this in the middle of the night, I can imagine you fall asleep.
Yeah, there's not as much action. Not as spectacular as like other action films. It's just there.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of on the passive side.
Yeah.
A lot of...
it is... Oh, go ahead.
A lot of darkly lit scenes, so I can imagine a lot of people fall asleep in those darkly lit scenes.
Yeah. There's like a whole lot of scenes of people just talking.
Yeah, and more reaction than action.
Yeah.
And, a lot of historical stuff. Obviously the kids may not know what the Babylon.
I was like looking at the recreation of the Babylonian gardens, and like we only see it for 30 seconds, and I'm like, ah!
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. I like that.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
And like I said before, I love seeing the ancient Mayan culture. Aztec Mayan pyramids, and actually have them being beautiful and. Fully, I love that. There's a lot of, historical people that love history and sociology would probably really dig this movie more than, the regular general audience action, comedy people. This is...
Yeah. I think they overestimated their audience knowing history and sight of one archaeological object.
So,
different cultures.
Yeah, I imagine that there's some people that just don't care, and they're like, okay, I just want to see the superheroes fight, and they get disappointed because this movie has, more talking and more...
Yeah, they argue more than they fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, one of the main character, Cersei, she's pretty dull. I mean, she's just... just kind of, okay.
You have the doe-eyed superhero who's like, what do we do? I'm not ready, or, along the lines of that.
Like, all the characters are very one note because you don't have... you have 3 hours, basically, but you still don't have that much time with them. So they only have enough time to know a little bit about Cersei, a little bit about Icarus, a little bit about Athena, And like I did say, like Jake said, classic Jake, I like that Athena has PTSD, and they explain it, that, hey, this is, I guess, a malfunction in the robot or something not correctly doing it, and that's why there's memories of the past of the different times, and that makes sense. It's cool. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, they handled it because they didn't properly erase her memories when they brought her back. So she's struggling with past memories, which is how PTSD messes with people.
Yeah.
And I can, it's hard to see a big cast like this and be like, wow. And none of these characters we know before, it's hard to get into a movie. I understand why people don't like it. I like it, but I understand it. I get it. I'm not like,
First Marvel movie was the Avengers.
It's one of those things where some movies, this is a awesome movie. Everyone loves this movie. And the one person that hates it, you don't understand that. This is the kind of movie I totally understand why you wouldn't like it. It's slow, it can be boring, and not that the acting is good, but not great. And some of them are bad. And it's just...
Yeah.
There's some retconning of religion. I wonder if people are going to get mad at that. How many...
Yeah, it's like if they see a celestial, is that going to question people's belief in God?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot there. Are these celestials, do some of them have less morals and they're becoming gods of that planet? We don't know.
Yeah.
So is there going to be a spin-off of MCU fandom of worship of the Celestials and the Eternals?
I mean, some of the Eternals...
Maybe.
We see, the end credits, with different allusions to different cultures. People know of these Eternals and they saved their lives. So there definitely is some mythology, some religions that have inspired Eternals, so it's...
Yeah, there's the whole story of Icarus flying too close to the sun. I mean, it was on the nose when he flies into the sun.
Very on the nose.
But that's in the Western world. In China, that's not going to be that obvious. Or in Russia. I mean, there's parts of the world. Yeah, this movie, the U.S. market, I think, was a secondary consideration for this movie.
I mean, Gilgamesh, for God's sake, is considered one of the best stories of ancient times.
Yeah.
So that is the character name, Gilgamesh, and this story that
and Sprite is
that's about the soft drink. Yes.
Yeah.
It's an old term for a specific type of fairy. Like there's
like an elf. Yeah.
Elves, brownies, sprites. There's a bunch of others.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense because she looks rather elf-like. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Athena is supposedly based off one of the most beautiful women in the world, if I'm not mistaken, according to Greek mythology.
Or the goddess of...
I think that's how it was.
Yeah.
Or the goddess, yeah.
Yeah, Athena.
Well,
they built the city of Athens for her.
Uh-huh.
Well, she's Athena in the movie, not Athena. They actually say it.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, Kirby, she originally was going to be Athena, but Kirby changed it to Athena so it wouldn't be so on the nose.
So...
Yeah, because in the movie it's like drop the A.
Yeah.
Athena is part of Greek mythology as the Olympian goddess of wisdom and war, and adored by the patrons of the city of Athens. A virgin deity that somewhat paradoxically associated with peace and handicrafts, especially on spinning and weaving. Majestic and stern, Athena surpassed everyone. Blah 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 blah. There's a lot of different mythologies here. A lot of is this. I can imagine people getting offended. Hey, that's my religion, or that's my faith that you're messing up when you're tinkering and saying, I can imagine some people get offended, but I don't think they're disrespecting anything.
When Kirby was doing this stuff, it's when the whole Chariot of the Gods was kind of really in popular culture. And if you're not familiar with it, I would at least read a wiki on it because it's interesting crap. You get an idea how boomers think.
So I guess to wrap up, it explains why some history thing hasn't. They've changed some, but they haven't done a lot. But why Shang-Chi, the rings, why they didn't just stop that, because they don't, it's not their job. They have a directive, a prime directive, kind of thing.
I've got questions about why they didn't interfere with Thanos.
Yeah, I think that is a really interesting thing. And where was Eros? Where was Star Fox? Why the hell was he helping the Guardians,
Yep.
So there's a lot...
Because they weren't in the screenplay.
No?
Yeah, I mean, Marvel didn't know that Guardians was going to be a $1 billion franchise.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know what takes off and what doesn't take off. I never expected Guardians of the Galaxy to be a huge, huge hit before it came out. And I didn't, music, how they did music here, I really liked too. It's not as obvious as Guardians, but it works, and it definitely...
It's more ethereal.
Yeah.
Really nice soundtrack. And the score was pretty decent too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there any other final words, or you think that's it for Eternals?
That's it for Eternals. Until next time.
Yeah.
So again, wrapping up, I gave it a 6, Classic Jake gave it a 7, and New Jake, you gave it a 5.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's all subject to change, though.
Yeah.
I gotta let it dig deeper into my ethos or whatever.
Yeah. I'm sure everybody can see why I gave it a 7. And I can see why other Jake gave it a 5.
Yeah, I mean, that could all change. I mean, I like Dune better now than I did when I first seen it, so who knows?
Yeah, it's one of those things where people are like, well, if you either liked it or you didn't like it, and there's some movies where you have to watch it a couple times before you really like it, and there's sometimes it just takes a minute to linger in your brain, and that pondering can either make it better or worse. It just depends on the situation. So it's just one of those things where I don't necessarily want to watch this movie again anytime soon. I'm good. I liked it enough, but I can understand that. Okay, in time, this might be a gem where people love it. It might be like Justice League, the Snyder Cut, where everyone, either you love it or you really don't. It might be one of those things where in time people could see it, and maybe there's a director's cut of this movie or another cut that is shorter that people do like.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a fan edit that'll incorporate deleted scenes or take away. Who knows?
Or something may happen and we may see something with Blade or Star Fox, and everybody loves it, and they go back and watch this movie to catch details.
Yeah,
I mean, there's definitely some movies where people actually are fine with it when it comes out, and then they hate it years later, and vice versa.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've done that.
Mm-hmm. And I also saw some things that looked like they were building towards the Fantastic Four slightly. And that may come in. People may want to revisit this after the Fantastic Four movie finally drops.
Yeah.
Now, I definitely want to see that, people in other movies mention this new what the hell hand thing in the Indian Ocean and, what's going on there. Maybe that gets... we had an earthquake mention in Avengers Endgame, so maybe that that increase now to have those earthquakes. Maybe it's one of those things where this helps to get we have a Submariner reference because the Submariner was locked away, but maybe this hand coming out of the ocean has broken it free. I don't know.
Yeah,
might piss him off. Like, okay, what have the landlubbers done now to pollute my ocean?
Yeah, and we haven't had. I'm not sure if Marvel / Disney have owned the rights again to Submariner. I think that's kind of still under Universal, but this might be a good way to incorporate that.
Oh, Universal has agreed to a World War Hulk movie because they want to make money, is the official line at Marvel. So I assume they feel the same way about Submariner. In fact, I've heard they're pretty much making Atlantis part of the Aztec Empire, more or less.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to really change it around from Aquaman, because by the time they make a Submariner movie, Aquaman will have 2 movies out. So,
yeah,
it's going to be compared. It's always compared the characters, but
it was compared in the comics when Aquaman came out. He was always seen as the inferior version until Marvel quit doing stuff with Submariner.
And, these Eternals, if it doesn't get a sequel, and I'm not mad. I think they got a complete story here, and it's okay. I'm curious about what happens next, but if it's okay if we don't get a sequel. This is not like, there's some seeds here for the future, but there's not like enough that I would get pissed off if there's not a sequel. If there's never a sequel to this, I'm okay with it. What about y'all?
Yeah, I could also see them rolling several of these characters into another Guardians movie.
Yeah.
Apparently Guardians 3 is going to be the last one, but I don't know.
No, it's going to be the last one with James Gunn. He's done.
He's going back to DC after this.
Can you blame him? Disney really humiliated him the way they fired him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see where things are going to be happening in the future. Maybe this is too weird for general audiences or too slow and they don't want this anymore. And maybe Eternals are just like retconned and like, oh yeah, that is mentioned, but never really mentioned in the future. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe we have, maybe Sprite actually.
Maybe so much money in India, there's just a Bollywood musical sequel.
Who knows? You know.
Oh, and I would pay $2 to see that, Marvel.
Yeah, maybe Sprite kept her power somehow, and she could, help out with something. I don't know.
Maybe she gets him back because, I don't know, reasons.
Mm-hmm. Or she becomes a vampire.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I mean, I guess it could be a Star Fox movie, which,
Yeah.
And that explains
Do a barrel roll.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we could. The first NC-17 movie in the MCU, and I'm sure the ladies will love that with Harry Styles.
I mean, I think if they do have a Star Fox movie, they absolutely should mention that line, do a barrel roll. They'll have,
Yeah, they really, really should.
Show him being a pilot and stuff, and have that being something that he does. Just that would be a fun reference. But it's just one of those things where maybe in Star Fox we get, Star Fox movie we get the Eternals come back. Who knows?
Yeah.
If not, it's okay. This isn't like Incredible Hulk that left a whole bunch of things kind of dangling.
They're finally getting around to it.
Yeah. And Star Fox and Pip have a history with Adam Warlock.
Yeah, and Warlock's supposed to be a big part of Guardians 3, so.
Oh, yeah, his casting was announced.
Will Poulter.
Which is very interesting.
Yeah. He was supposed to be Pennywise at one point.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens. I wonder too if people are going to get upset. I mean, there's definitely some people that are like, well, I don't want to read subtitles in my movie, and people get pissy about that they have subtitles for certain things. I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, they had subtitles for Shang-Chi, and that movie is a big hit and amongst fans and audiences and critics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
I mean,
I gave it a 10, and I still stand by that.
So yeah, it's gone its way to make 71 million worldwide, or 71 million for opening weekend, and 161 globally. But globally is different because it's different parts of the world. I don't know how much this thing costs to make, but it seems like a lot. Maybe
I think it was like $200 million for an independent movie. It seems like.
Yeah, so I don't know how much Marvel is expecting / Disney to come back. If it's gonna, does it make a profit, or is it, with all the marketing, does it just like, okay, this is not a huge hit, but it's not a flop either? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if they've already committed sequels to Shang-Chi and Black Widow, or not Black Widow, but if they already committed a sequel to Shang-Chi, then why not? I mean, that movie didn't do great.
Oh, Shang-Chi is making good money, or made good money. So,
yeah, but I mean, like compared to other Marvel films, it's kind of weaker.
We'll see what happens with this franchise, if it does a franchise. Who knows? It's interesting because it might just be one of those things. Maybe they don't mention it again, and maybe it's just a passing thing. Oh yeah, you see a flyby in Indian Ocean, you see that hand, and you're like, oh yeah, that's from Eternals. And that's it. That's the only reference. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that is something people will notice, and I'm glad the news did mention that, because I think that would be a huge structure. I don't know how big that thing is, but
yeah.
Imagine a hand that, how big is that? Is that the size of like a Texas or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
The next Spider-Man movie, the class goes on vacation to see it.
I don't know. But I think that's going to be it for our podcast. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Before this podcast wraps up, I want to thank my patrons. Thank you, Kano3D, Mr. Bengal 5, and Kevin Winter for your financial support on Patreon.com. So that's going to be it for this podcast. Thanks for listening. You can find 3D or 2D on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, and more. Just look for 3D or 2D. Links are in the info box. If you want to send us listener mail, our email address is email3dortwood@gmail.com. Thank you for either listening or watching this podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.